who's actually going to get the most out of a laptop that brands itself as a creator-focused machine, and who should just keep scrolling. If you're a freelance video editor juggling 4K footage, a 3D artist who needs real-time viewport rendering, or a photographer who wants a color-accurate screen for on-the-go grading, the ASUS ProArt P16 might feel like the perfect match. On the other hand, if you're a casual gamer who just needs a decent screen for occasional titles, or a student looking for a budget-friendly notebook, this powerhouse could end up being more of a financial burden than a benefit. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'm going to break down why the ProArt P16 works, or doesn't, for everyday buyers, what the hidden trade-offs are, and whether the price tag actually delivers value beyond the headline specs. First off, the biggest draw people point to is the 16-inch 3K OLED Lumina touch display. In practice, that means you're getting a screen that can hit 2880x1800 pixels with deep blacks and a wide color gamut, which is a huge win for anyone who does color-critical work. I tested the panel by opening a raw Lightroom catalog and comparing it to a calibrated external monitor. The OLED's vibrancy made the highlights pop without any noticeable banding, and the touch layer felt responsive enough that I could use it as a drawing surface with my preferred stylus for quick sketches. The 120Hz refresh rate also smooths out timeline scrubbing in Premiere, so you're not constantly fighting stutter when you drag a clip across a 4K sequence. But there's a cost to that brilliance. OLED panels are notorious for burn-in if static UI elements sit for too long. I left the laptop idle on a dark desktop for a few hours and ran a quick test by taking a screenshot of the screen before and after. The difference was negligible, but you do need to be mindful of leaving high-contrast UI panels open for extended periods. For a photographer who often keeps a histogram or waveforms on screen, that could mean occasional dimming of those areas over months of use. The solution is to enable the built-in pixel shift feature, which ASUS provides, but it does add a tiny bit of flicker that can be noticeable if you're watching the screen from a distance. Now let's talk about the heart of the machine, the AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370 paired with an RTX 5070 GPU. On paper this looks like a future-proof combo, and in my real-world tests it held up. Rendering a 30-second 4K animation in Blender took about 42 seconds on this laptop, which is roughly 20% faster than a comparable Intel i9 with an RTX 3080 that I've used previously. The AI-enhanced cores also accelerated Adobe's new generative fill feature, cutting down processing time by a noticeable margin. If your workflow includes AI-assisted upscaling or denoising, the extra AI branding isn't just marketing fluff, it actually translates into measurable time savings. The downside here is power consumption. Under sustained GPU load the laptop draws close to 200 W, and the 99 Wh battery drains to 20% in under an hour of continuous rendering. That means you're effectively tethered to a power outlet for any serious session, which is fine for a studio desk but less ideal if you plan to edit on a train or in a coffee shop. The charger that comes with the ProArt P16 is a 240W brick, so you'll need a decent power strip and possibly a separate UPS if you're worried about outages. For someone who expects a laptop to be a true mobile workstation, that power draw is a practical limitation. Storage is another area where the ProArt shines. A full 4 TB of PCIe 4.0 SSD space gives you room for massive raw video files, 3D project assets, and a hefty install of Photoshop, Premiere, and Maya without constantly juggling external drives. The read/write speeds are impressive. Sequential reads tops out at about 7 GB per second, which shaved a few seconds off large copy operations. However, the SSD is not user-replaceable. The drive is soldered to the motherboard, so if you ever need to upgrade or replace it, you'll have to send the whole laptop back to ASUS service. That's something to consider if you like to keep your hardware modular. RAM might sound like an afterthought, but 32 GB of LPDDR5X makes a real difference when you're multitasking between heavy applications. I ran a stress test with 3 instances of After Effects, Photoshop, and a virtual machine all open at once. The system stayed responsive, and there was no noticeable lag when switching tabs. The catch? The memory is locked behind the motherboard as well, so you can't add a fourth stick later. If you think you'll need more than 32 GB down the line, say for complex visual effects or large data sets, this laptop is a one-time purchase in terms of RAM capacity. One of the unique features ASUS touts is the dial pad, a small rotary control that sits just below the keyboard. In practice, it works best with Adobe apps. You can assign it to brush size, zoom, or timeline scrubbing, and the tactile feedback feels smoother.